So we are back for movie reviews on Pure 24/7 Radio, and I'm joined by my good friend Andy Godfrey. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Hey Nathan, it's great to see you again. Yeah, I'm very well. Had a bit of a busy week and got a busy weekend coming up, but always will make time to talk about movies.
Yes, it's great to have you with us today. How's your week been? Is it? You see, it's been busy.
Yes, it's been busy. I've been with my mum, and she lives in Somerset and I live in Milton Keynes. So she is 87, got a few problems that comes with old age. And then tomorrow I'm going to the Church of the Nazarene District Assembly in Watford for 2 days to just to talk about the mission that I work for, Outreach UK. We've got a display stand, and then I'm preaching on Sunday at my own local church. If anybody out there needs a preacher for your church, I'm available to be booked. Yeah, so it's been quite busy, quite hectic. I managed to squeeze in a few films as well along the way. There was one I wanted to see that I didn't get to see, but other than that, I managed to see basically all I wanted to see. So we've got a bit to talk about.
Excellent. Wow, been busy then.
Yeah,
But it's great to see you. And as you actually said to me just a moment ago, movies are a great form of escapism, and I think that's for me. For many years, that has been a great way of using movies for myself because,
yeah.
watching movies, it just takes you to another world and allows you to relax for a little while because you're just immersed in an entirely different reality.
That's absolutely true. It's the main reason why I love going to movies. I mean, when I'm sat in a in a theatre in a cinema, nobody can get in touch with me. There's no emails to answer. There's no text to respond to. There's nobody. Your phone's off, and you're just sitting there, as you say, enjoying it, escaping into another world. And it's one reason why I particularly like science fiction and fantasy films. You really are in another world.
Yeah.
But thrillers, you get your heart pumping. Horror movie can get your heart pumping. A musical can get your foot tapping. And for those couple of hours or however long the film is, and some of them are getting too long these days, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And that's why I've always loved going to the cinema. I think, I said in my book, the first time I ever saw at the cinema was The Wizard of Oz. And every time I go to the cinema, it's like, for me, going back to Oz. I'm in another world. I'm in another place. Don't bother me for a couple of hours. This is my time.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we when we watch films as a family, one of the biggest problems we have is constantly pausing for breaks or
Right.
refreshments or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that was the weird thing about the lockdown, because I was obviously cinemas were shut, and I was basically locked down. I was watching movies that were streaming, but as you say, you can pause, you can put your phone on to check information about the film,
yeah,
you could go and get a cup of coffee. And the very first time I walked into a cinema after lockdown, which was the Odeon here in Milton Keynes, I had to remind myself, you can't turn your phone on, you can't check the internet, you can't do anything, you can't pause the film, to pop out to go to the loo or whatever. But it was just so nice to be back in the cinema that I didn't really have a problem. So yeah, and as you say, escapism, and so many different forms of escapism. I think this is the other great thing. In any given week, you can see a sci-fi, a musical, an animated film.
yeah,
And so there's always something on offer to watch.
yes. Sorry, do you need to get that at all?
No, it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm fine. I'm okay.
sorry. Yeah, I was thinking now because
Yeah, you
it's
heard
quite
my
loud.
phone
We might
call.
need to
Sorry about
just
that.
trim that a little
I've
bit
just
out.
turned it down now.
That's fine.
Okay.
I didn't know if it's
Sorry.
urgent. You need to.
No, that's fine. No, it's
No?
fine. If a call comes in that I need to get, I'll tell you.
Okay, that's fine. So, sorry, where do we get to? Just talking about films and movies.
Cinema and escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and this week we've got a wide variety of films as well. So we should hopefully have something for everyone that we're going to talk about now.
Awesome. Yeah. So where do you want to start?
I want to start with a brand new film that's out today, and that is that I saw 2 weeks ago. So it's a film called Last Breath. Now, one thing that's happened, one current trend in cinema at the moment is that documentaries about events are being turned into films. So this is a feature film based on a documentary. And this has happened several times. We had a football film the other week that was about last year that was about the worst football team in the world. And there was a documentary, and then they made a film. And we're seeing this as a trend where documentaries are being turned into feature films. The interesting thing with this is that we've got the same director who made the documentary is making the feature film. So there's a film called Last Breath, And it's one of those films that will have you literally gripped. It was one of those films that had me tugging on the arms of my seat, and I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. So right at the beginning of this film, Last Breath, we are told that there are 20,000 miles of cables and piping on the ocean floor, and they all crisscross each other. And then we're told that one of the most dangerous jobs in the world is for the divers who go down to incredible depths to maintain these pipes, to maintain these wires, to check on them, to make sure everything's okay. So we get all that information right at the start. This is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. We then meet a crew of a ship in the North Sea of Scotland who have got a team of divers, quite a large ship, team of divers on board who are going down to repair some pipes that lie on the seabed. Okay, so obviously we've got internet cables on the seabed, you've got gas, you've got all the rest of it. Okay, so we meet this team of divers headed up by Woody Harrelson, who's a great actor. And this is based on an absolutely true story. And as I say, the same director that made the documentary about what happened has made this film. Basically, two divers go down and something goes wrong. A massive storm out of the blue, despite the fact they've got all the latest radar equipment and everything else, a massive storm arises and hits the ship. And one of the divers, and this is all I'm going to say because the events that happened were incredible. One of the divers, his oxygen supply is cut and he begins to run out of air. 30,000 feet down, really on the ocean floor. The film is gripping. The film is tense. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It's got a fantastic soundtrack. And we get timings on screen. So we get captions on screen saying, 30 minutes of air left, 40 minutes of air left, whatever, with this particular diver. We've met him. We've met his fiance in a sort of flashback. We see his fiance and his and they're obviously very much in love, young man. So this really happened. And as I said, I don't want to say any more about how it unfolded, but you've got a diver running out of oxygen, trapped on the sea floor, while the ship that he's jumped from is going through a storm, and they can't get to him. Go see it. It's a 15 certificate. I saw it 2 weeks ago. It's only a 15 certificate, really, because there's some bad language. There's obviously nothing else, but it really is gripping. It is amazing, and you will be staggered when you see the events as they unfold, And I love this. I mean, it's driven me back to watch the original documentary. But this is an increasing trend, and I think with Hollywood clearly struggling to come up with new stories because we see sequels being made all the time, this is something that's quite exciting, this trend, in that we can take documentaries. There was one a few years back about a couple who were exploring, I think in the Andes mountains, and they got lost, and nobody knows to this day what happened to them, but they kind of turned that into a film. So this is a trend that's happening, and honestly, I really, really enjoyed it. It's called The Last Breath. Go see it. It's suspenseful. It will tug at your heartstrings. It will literally cause you to gasp. I was sat there thinking, this film's called The Last Breath, and here I am gasping for breath because it's holding my attention. I'm literally gripped to what's happening on the screen. Will this guy survive? Will the storm calm down in time? And so on and so forth. So go see it. So that's The Last Breath, which is on, and it opens today. I saw a preview screening a couple of weeks ago, and it's an hour and a half, but it really is good because it kind of plays out in real time, as to what was actually happening to this guy as his oxygen supply is dwindling. So
Yeah.
that's a good one to go and see, Last Breath. Another one which I saw this week, which again is a 15 certificate, is called Mickey 17. So Mickey 17 is a science fiction film set in the future. I say it's science fiction, it's actually a rom-com and a bit of a political thriller as well. So we meet in the future a group of people that are on board a spaceship. They are being led by a Donald Trump lookalike type character who is taking these people to colonize another planet where he will be king, okay? And he'll be king of those people. By this stage of the future, human beings using 3D printers, we're all familiar with 3D printing, I think, these days, have learned how to 3D print human beings, okay? So what's happening is this: when there is a dangerous, talking of dangerous jobs, like we were just talking about last breath, when there's a dangerous job to be done, people can sign up and say, yeah, I will become what's called an expendable. I will do that job. And if I die, you will then reprint me and put my memories back into me. So hence Mickey 17. We meet Mickey. He's the 17th incarnation of the original Mickey. Okay. And Mickey 17 is sent down to this planet they're hoping to colonize in order to check the atmosphere. Because obviously if the atmosphere is poisonous, well, he can die, we can reprint him. Okay. A bit like the Bionic Man, we can rebuild him. And what happens is that on this particular mission, Mickey, they think he's dead, so they print Mickey 18. But in fact, Mickey 17 has survived. So we've now got two Mickeys with the same memories, the same personality, both in love with the same girl who thinks this is incredible. She's now got two identical boyfriends that she loves. It's funny. There was a film a few years ago called Starship Troopers, which was about aliens swarming over a planet. We discover that the planet they want to colonize is full of a particular type of alien, hundreds of them, that start to overwhelm their ship and start to overwhelm the landing party. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, science fiction is my favorite genre anyway. And I just really, really enjoyed it. I thought this was really good. It's funny. It's a little bit political. There is stuff about, set in the future, but there are references to things that are happening in the world today. It's got stuff to say about the value of human life, because obviously if we reprint a human, is it the same human? What has to happen to his soul? All that kind of questions going on. But it's just at the end of the day, a really enjoyable science fiction film. And I really enjoyed it. So that's in cinemas as well. Look out for that. Another one that's coming out today, which I haven't seen, is called Sister Midnight. Sister Midnight. Now, I was at an event in London this week, and the director of Sister Midnight was on the stage being interviewed by my good friend Mark Kermode. And I'm just looking up so I get the details right. This is a really good film. It looks really good anyway, Sorry, Nathan, can we pause there and I'll come back?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I wanted to get it right. Thank you. You're a star. Yeah. So this film, Sister Midnight. This film is set in Mumbai, and it tells the story of a young girl trying to run away from an arranged marriage. It's one to look out for. I heard the director being interviewed, as I say, live this week at an event I was at, and it looks really, really good. One other film that's in cinemas, just while we're still on cinema, that I have seen, is called One of Them Days. One of Them Days. Now, again, it's a 15 certificate. I'm afraid there aren't that many family-orientated films in the cinema at the moment. I mean, Moana 2 is still hanging around, and there's a couple, but they're not in the top 10. They're leaving cinemas. And at the moment, we have a glut of family-orientated films. But One of Them Days, I absolutely love this. So we meet a young lady. It's an all-black cast. She's in Los Angeles. She's been working a midnight shift at a fast food joint. And she gets home 7 o'clock in the morning, having worked all night, to find her flatmate has given their rent money to her boyfriend. And he spent it. So the landlord turns up and he says, I need your rent money by 4 o'clock this afternoon, or else I'm evicting you. And on the screen, suddenly in big bold letters, it says 4 hours to eviction. Okay, so they got 4 hours to find rent money. They try everything. I mean, they go to a blood bank and try and sell their blood. They buy lottery cards. They do all sorts of things, and the whole film is basically about them trying to raise enough money to pay the rent. But then there is a further twist as well, involving, believe it or not, a gangster. It's called One of Them Days. It is funny. It is joyous. It is uplifting. The language is very raw and right, I grant you, because it's a 15 certificate. But honestly, I laughed. I laughed a lot. And I thought, yeah, next time I have one of them days, I'll be remembering this. So that's out in cinemas as well. But particularly look out for Last Breath this week. That's the film of the week. And everybody should see it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about a few things to watch at home?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, there's only one place I can start, because a film has become available to watch at home now to stream that I absolutely loved. It was my favourite film of last year. And interestingly, we were just talking about having a dearth of family-orientated films this week. This is a family film, okay? And we did review it on the show, but now it's available to stream. And it's called Harold and the Purple Crayon. So this is a series of books that came out in America in the 50s about a little boy who's got a magic purple crayon, and whatever he draws comes to life. If he draws a plane appears. If he draws a pie appears, okay? And one day he's in his own little world, which is basically just a white world that this little drawing of a little boy lives in. And one day he hears a voice, and the voice says, "Thank you for being so good to me." And he can't figure out where this voice is coming from. And he suddenly says, "Dad?" And it turns out it's the author of the books, and he's dying. So the little boy decides he's got to find his dad before his dad dies. And he's in his own cocoon little world with his friends. But he draws a door and he writes above it the word exit. And going through the door, they suddenly find themselves in the real world, in our world. And the little boy comes through as a grown man into our world, but with a little boy's knowledge. But he brings his purple crayon with him. He meets another boy and says, he bumps into a little boy just by accident and says, excuse me, do you know who my father is? Do you know where I can find my father? And of course, no, what are you talking about? And the little boy's mum, who's played by Zoe DeChannel, who's a brilliant Australian actress, she comes along and eventually they become friends and they start to have all sorts of adventures. There's very much a Lord of the Rings type thing going on towards the end of this. It is a marvellous, marvellous, funny family film. And I loved every minute of it. It's called Harold and the Purple Crayon. There's one point where he says to the man, that Harold says to the little boy who's befriended, "Do you like blueberry pie? Blueberry pie is my favourite." The little boy says, "Yeah, I love blueberry pie." So he draws blueberry pie and another blueberry pie. And Mum comes down in the morning, the whole kitchen's full of blueberry pies. You know, where did these come from? You know, as I said, there's a bit of a Lord of the Rings thing going on at the end with the bad guy who is trying to get his hands on the purple crayon because he's realised the magic in it. It's just a really lovely family film that I really enjoyed. And again, you can sit down and watch it with the family. So that's good. Another film, Nathan, that's come on streaming services this week is a film called Sing Sing. Now, this didn't make my top 10 last year, but it did make my top 20. It's about the Sing Sing prison in New York, which is a really harsh, terrible place by all accounts, the prison and the people in it. And it's about one of the prisoners who's in for a crime he didn't commit, we discover, who decides to form an amateur theatrical group within the prison and get the actors putting on plays. And that's the story. But it's a true story. This is another true story. And again, it's really uplifting because these guys have realised that they need to reform their lives. They realise they need to go out of prison better people than they were when they came in. And this guy, the central character, actually didn't commit the crime he's in there for anyway. But, either we can sit and we can mope and we can moan and, we can cause trouble. But let's do something positive. Let's put on a play. And honest to goodness, it is really, really good film. Watching these convicts change their ways, watching them form a group, watching them form friendships, we end up really, really rooting for them. And when finally the play is staged, you just end up really rooting for them. Go out there, break a leg, do a good job. It's a great film. It's called Sing Sing, and it is really, really good. Also, I just wanted to mention one other film that's available to watch at home. So some of our listeners will be familiar with Horrible Histories, the TV series, which pokes fun at history, but at the same time teaches us history. So the writers of the Horrible History series have written a film called Bill, and it's about William Shakespeare and his life. And I saw this at the cinema not a few years ago. It's now on the BBC iPlayer under the heading of family-orientated films. And basically, it's about William Shakespeare, how he came to write the plays, where he gets his ideas from. It's an educational film, but it is just so much fun, as the Horrible Histories tend to be. I mean, I love Horrible Histories. They've had a couple of feature films that they've made based on the TV series, And I just think that Horrible Histories is great, really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one that people might want to avoid that you will see on streaming, and we did talk about this on the show as well, but it's available to stream now. People will look at this and think, "Oh, that stars Tom Hanks. It must be good." Film called Here. It isn't good. It's rubbish. This is the film where the camera just stays in one spot, and we go back 10,000 years and see dinosaurs, and we come forward and we see the house being built, and we see Victorian times, and all the way through. So it's called Here. It's available to stream now. Honestly, I wouldn't touch it again with a barge pole, because I just thought it was terrible. The acting's tedious. The acting is so over the top. It's unbelievable. And the fact of the matter is that it's not very good. So, but yeah,
Okay.
so those are my films. So my film of the week is definitely The Last Breath at the Cinema. My film of the week to watch at home is Harold and the Purple Crayon. And
Awesome.
those are the ones that I would recommend.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andy. I mean, The Last Breath sounds fantastic. I do like a good thriller, one that really keeps you on the edge of your seat, where you're held in suspense. There's something very exciting about that.
It is. And this one is especially exciting because sometimes when you get a true story, when it comes up, it will say based on at the start of the film, say based on a true story. Okay. This one doesn't. This one says this is a true story. And again, at the end of the film, we meet the actual people involved. We see what happened to them and so on. And really, in a sense, what happened could be classified as miraculous, genuinely. And you get so involved with the people, with the characters. The scenes of the ship going through the storm are really well done. I think they're CGI, but you wouldn't know. You'd actually think you're looking at a real ship in a real storm. I saw it at a pretty packed preview screening, and everybody was literally holding their breath until the last breath of the film. It's got a fantastic soundtrack. It might be a bit too bombastic for some. The soundtrack's a bit bombastic, but it really is good. Woody Harrelson is good in whatever he's in. I mean, he's in a film on Netflix now called Champions, which is where he becomes the coach of a basketball team of kids with special needs, which we've talked about, which is a great film. And I do like Woody Harrelson. He was in not the last one, but the one before Planet of the Apes movie, which I think was called War for Planet of the Apes. So he was in that. So he's a very versatile actor. He's in sci-fi and comedy and so on. And yeah, Last Breath, definitely. I hope it does really well. I mean, the number one film in cinemas at the moment in terms of box office is still Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy, which I get. People love the Bridget Jones films. People are wanting to see the sequel. But I doubt very much if it'll be number one next week. I'm hoping Last Breath will come in and go number one. Mickey 17 is good. Sister Midnight is the other new one to look out for, which is, as I say, I heard the director interviewed. I haven't seen the film, but he says it's a very revealing look at the caste system in South Africa, in Africa and in Mumbai, and arranged marriages and what that means for the kids involved and so on and so forth. So yeah, go see it by all means, Sister Midnight. But do go and see Last Breath, and at home do watch Harold and the Purple Crayon. The other thing maybe I should just mention is I got a new Blu-ray this week that's just come out this week, so I've added a Blu-ray to my collection, and Wicked is now out on Blu-ray, and the amount of extras are fantastic. We get the actors doing a commentary track all the way through the film. We get the director doing a separate commentary track. We get behind-the-scenes documentaries, and the extras on Wicked. If you're thinking of, sometimes people say, "Oh, well, if I want to see Wicked, I'll rent it." Okay, fair enough. But for me, buying a Blu-ray, buying a physical copy means I only have to pay for it once. If I rent Wicked and then I want to see it again 6 months' time, I'd have to pay for it again. But having the Blu-ray means I paid for it, and it ends up with me, the amount of times I rewatch films ends up paying for itself, So Wicked is out as well, and if you fancy a treat, I don't know, maybe Mother's Day's coming up. Maybe you kids want, and Mum loved Wicked. Well, get it the Blu-ray. It's well worth having.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Plenty of great films there. We've got a sci-fi, we've got a thriller, and
Yeah.
looks like there's one looking forward to Sisters Midnight or something.
Sister Midnight, which is a drama about a young girl and an arranged marriage in Mumbai. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at home, number one film at home, Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Yeah,
you know,
sounds like a lot of fun.
it is. Thank
Awesome.
you, Nathan, ever so much.
Thank you.
And it's great to be on with you. And God bless Pure, and God bless everybody listening.
Pure Media, the magazine, is hand perfected with some of the finest writers from around the world that we could find, and yes, Andy B too. New editions are released just for you on the first Friday of every month, from our family to your family. Pure Media, the magazine, is available now. Sign up for free at puremediafamily.com/magazine.